The shocking truth about America's most popular ground beef. Have you ever stopped to wonder what's really inside that perfectly packaged pound of ground beef sitting in your refrigerator right now? If you eat ground beef, and statistically speaking, there's a very high chance you do, this article is going to change the way you look at your next burger, meatball, or taco night forever. We're pulling back the curtain on one of America's most consumed proteins, and what we've found is going to shock you, disgust you, and ultimately empower you to make smarter choices for yourself and your family. Before we dive in, if you're learning something new today, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It genuinely helps us keep producing content like this, and trust us, you'll want to stick around for everything we're about to reveal. The numbers don't lie. America's obsession with ground beef. Ground beef is not just popular in America, it is a cultural institution. According to industry data, Americans consume roughly 50 billion burgers per year. That's approximately 3 burgers per person per week. Ground beef accounts for nearly half of all beef sold in the United States, making it the single most purchased form of beef in the country. Walk into any grocery store and you'll find an entire section dedicated to it. 80-20 blends, 90-10 blends, lean, extra lean, grass-fed, organic, all natural. The labels are everywhere, the choices are overwhelming, and most people, including highly educated, health-conscious consumers, have absolutely no idea what separates a quality product from a dangerous one. That's where this article comes in. What ground beef actually is. And what the label doesn't tell you? Let's start with the basics, because even here, the truth is more complicated than most people realize. Ground beef is, in theory, simple. It's beef that has been ground up. But the reality of industrial food production means that what ends up in your package could be a blend from dozens, sometimes hundreds, of different cattle, sourced from multiple farms, multiple feedlots, and in some cases, multiple countries. Unlike a steak, which is traceable to a specific cut from a specific animal, ground beef is a blended product. A single package of ground beef sold at a major supermarket chain may contain meat from cattle raised in the United States, Mexico, Canada, Australia, or Brazil, all mixed together and sold under one generic label. This matters for a critical reason. Contamination risk scales with the number of sources. If even one animal in that massive blend is carrying E. coli 0157:H7, one of the most dangerous strains of foodborne bacteria, the contamination spreads throughout the entire batch. This is why ground beef has historically been far more likely to cause foodborne illness outbreaks than whole cuts of beef. The fat content game. Let's talk about the fat percentages you see on every package, because here the food industry has done a masterful job of creating confusion. When you see 80-20 ground beef, that means 80% lean meat and 20% fat by weight. Sounds reasonable, right? But here's the thing. Most people don't realize, when you look at the caloric breakdown, that 20% fat by weight translates to nearly 65% of calories coming from fat. The food industry is not lying to you, but it is absolutely using framing that obscures the nutritional reality. 90-10 ground beef is commonly marketed as lean, and while it is leaner, the caloric profile still skews heavily toward fat. True extra lean starts at 96/4, and this is the product that most closely aligns with what many consumers think they're buying when they grab something off the shelf labeled simply as lean. This distinction matters enormously for anyone tracking their diet, managing cardiovascular health, or simply trying to understand what they're putting into their bodies. The pink slime scandal that shook the nation. If you've been following food politics in America at any point over the last decade and a half, you've heard of pink slime. But do you know the full story? The product, officially called lean finely textured beef, LFTB, by the USDA and its manufacturers, is made from the trimmings left over after cattle are processed. These trimmings, which are low in protein and high in fat and connective tissue, are then heated, spun in a centrifuge to separate the fat, and treated with ammonium hydroxide gas, a form of ammonia, to kill pathogens like E. coli and Salmonella. The resulting product is a pale pink, paste-like substance that is then mixed into regular ground beef as a filler. For years, it was added to ground beef sold in supermarkets and, most controversially, in school cafeteria programs across the United States without any disclosure to consumers. When food scientist and whistleblower Gerald Zernstein coined the term pink slime in an internal USDA email back in 2002, he never imagined it would eventually ignite a nationwide firestorm. It wasn't until celebrity chef Jamie Oliver broadcast the process on American television and journalist Carl Zimmer's reporting went viral that the American public finally learned what had been quietly added to their hamburgers for years. The backlash was swift and devastating. Major fast food chains, including McDonald's, Burger King, and Taco Bell, announced they were removing the product from their supply chains. Several major grocery chains followed. The company at the center of the controversy, Beef Products Inc., saw its business collapse nearly overnight, shutting down 3 of its 4 plants. But here's the part that rarely gets told. LFTB is still legal. It is still produced, and it may still be in some of the ground beef you're buying today. The USDA determined it is safe. Many experts in food science agree that the ammonia treatment is effective at killing pathogens. The issue was never purely about safety. It was about transparency, trust, and the right of consumers to know what is in their food. The contamination problem, when ground beef becomes deadly. E. coli O157:H7 is a bacterium that lives in the digestive tracts of cattle. In the animal, it causes no harm. In humans, it can cause severe bloody diarrhea, kidney failure, and death, particularly in young children, the elderly, and immunocompromised individuals. The history of E. coli outbreaks linked to ground beef in the United States is long and deeply disturbing. The 1993 Jack in the Box outbreak remains the most infamous. 73 restaurants in 4 states served undercooked hamburgers contaminated with E. coli O157:H7. 4 children died. More than 700 people fell ill. Hundreds suffered permanent kidney damage. In the years that followed, regulatory frameworks improved, but outbreaks never stopped entirely. In 2009, a New York Times investigation profiled Stephanie Smith, a 22-year-old dance instructor who was left permanently paralyzed after eating a hamburger contaminated with E. coli. The meat she ate was a mixture from slaughterhouses in Nebraska, Texas, South Dakota, and Uruguay, processed through a facility in Kansas. The investigation revealed something chilling. The beef industry had successfully lobbied against government testing requirements, meaning individual processing companies were not required to test their source ingredients for contamination before mixing them together. The pathogen controls existed, but the system had gaps wide enough for people to fall through, and some of them never got back up. Grass-fed versus grain-fed. The nutritional battle. Walk through the premium section of any modern grocery store and you'll find ground beef marketed as grass-fed at prices sometimes double or triple that of conventional products. Is it worth it? The science is genuinely interesting here. Grain-fed cattle, the default in American industrial beef production, are raised in feedlots and fed a diet of corn, soy, and other grains. This diet fattens them quickly and efficiently, producing the marbled, tender beef that American consumers have come to expect. However, the nutritional profile of the resulting meat reflects that diet. Grass-fed cattle, by contrast, spend their lives grazing on pasture. The resulting beef is typically lower in total fat, contains higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids, and has significantly higher concentrations of conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, a fatty acid that some research links to reduced cancer risk and improved metabolic health. Grass-fed beef also tends to have higher levels of vitamins E, A, and antioxidants like glutathione. The omega-3 difference is particularly striking, grass-fed beef can contain 2 to 4 times more omega-3s than grain-fed beef. While beef is not a primary source of omega-3s regardless of production method, the difference in the overall fatty acid ratio, omega-6 to omega-3, is meaningful from a nutritional standpoint. The catch? Grass-fed labeling in the United States is largely unregulated. The USDA's voluntary grass-fed marketing claim standard was withdrawn in 2016, meaning that today, a producer can technically label beef as grass-fed, even if the animal spent time in a feedlot. Certifications from third-party organizations like the American Grass-Fed Association provide more meaningful guarantees, but most consumers are not aware of this distinction. The hormones and antibiotics nobody talks about. The United States is one of the few developed countries in the world that permits the use of growth hormones in beef cattle. 6 hormones are approved for use. 3 natural, estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone, and 3 synthetic, zeranol, melengestrol acetate, and trenbolone acetate. These hormones accelerate growth and improve feed efficiency, reducing the cost of production. The European Union banned hormone-treated beef imports from the United States in 1989, a decision that sparked a decades-long trade dispute. The EU's position, supported by its own scientific committees, is that the long-term effects on human health, particularly the potential role of synthetic estrogens in hormone-sensitive cancers, have not been adequately studied. The USDA and FDA maintain that the hormone levels in treated beef are safe. The antibiotic situation is equally fraught. For decades, antibiotics were routinely administered to cattle at subtherapeutic levels, not to treat disease, but to promote growth and prevent illness in the crowded conditions of industrial feedlots. This practice, public health experts have warned for years, is a significant driver of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, one of the most serious global health threats of the 21st century. In 2017, the FDA implemented new rules requiring veterinary oversight for antibiotic use in food animals. Industry practices have shifted, but antibiotic-free remains a premium label, not the default, meaning that conventional ground beef may still come from animals that received antibiotics during their lives, even if not immediately before slaughter. The environmental elephant in the room. No honest discussion of ground beef in America can ignore the environmental dimension. The beef industry is one of the largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions in the agricultural sector, responsible for significant amounts of methane, a gas with roughly 80 times the warming potential of carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. Ground beef, as the most popular beef product, sits at the center of this environmental reality. Producing 1 pound of ground beef requires approximately 1,800 to 2,500 gallons of water, roughly 7 pounds of grain in grain-fed systems, and generates more greenhouse gas emissions than producing an equivalent amount of chicken, pork, or plant-based protein. None of this means beef consumption is inherently wrong or must be eliminated. But it does mean that the true cost of that $5 package of ground beef is not reflected in the price tag, and that the choices consumers make collectively have consequences that extend well beyond their own kitchens. How to buy ground beef smarter. Starting today. After everything we've covered, here is the practical guidance that actually makes a difference. 1. Buy from a butcher you trust. Ask them where the beef comes from. A good butcher grinds beef fresh and can tell you exactly what's in it. Supermarket ground beef, particularly from major chains, is almost always a multi-source blend. 2. Look for third-party certifications. For grass-fed claims, look for American Grass-Fed Association or Certified Grass-Fed by PCO certifications. For organic, look for USDA Organic. 3. Understand the fat ratios. 80-20 is great for flavor in burgers where you drain the fat. 90-10 or 93-7 is more appropriate for dishes like tacos or meat sauce where the fat stays in the pan. 4. Cook it properly. Ground beef must be cooked to an internal temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit, 71 degrees Celsius, throughout. Unlike steak, where the outside is seared and the interior can remain pink safely, Ground beef distributes surface bacteria throughout the product during grinding. Use a thermometer. Every time. 5. Be skeptical of vague labels. Natural, all natural, and hormone-free are largely unregulated marketing terms. They mean very little without context or certification. 6. Consider the source country. Ground beef labeled with a single country of origin, particularly product of USA, at minimum comes from cattle raised and processed domestically. This is not a guarantee of quality, but does reduce the number of variables in the supply chain. The bottom line: America's love affair with ground beef is not going anywhere. And that's fine. Ground beef can absolutely be part of a healthy, balanced diet. But the industrial system that delivers it to your plate is complex, imperfect, and in some respects, deliberately opaque. The pink slime scandal was not an anomaly. It was a window into a system that consistently prioritizes efficiency and cost over transparency and consumer knowledge. The contamination outbreaks that have paralyzed and killed real people are not ancient history. They are the predictable result of a blending system that amplifies risk at every step. You deserve to know what you're eating. Your family deserves to know what they're eating. And the first step toward making better choices is understanding the reality of what's in that package. If this article opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, please do 2 things right now. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We publish deep dive investigations like this one regularly, and your support is what makes it possible to keep doing this work. Share this with someone who eats ground beef. Which, let's be honest, is basically everyone you know. The truth about what's on your plate is worth knowing. And now you do. Sources: USDA Food Safety and Inspection Service, FDA, American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, New York Times Investigative Reporting, American Grass-Fed Association, Environmental Working Group.